Hey guys, it's Humberto and we're here with a follow-up video to our original first video on Spanish culture shocks. We decided to do a second video following the same thread where we'll add a couple of small culture shocks, but we're going to end up with some major ones that people will be interested in hearing, because if you are interested in visiting or potentially moving here, it's very useful information. Oh, and one correction though. One correction.
Just one.
Just one. Thanks to my Spanish people, mi gente española, they did correct me on one thing, because of course a lot of the culture shocks that we're experiencing are regional, right? We are in Valencia, and what happens here in Valencia may not happen all over Spain. And so that one will be at the end. All right, so welcome to
Spanish Culture Shocks 2.0. So I will go ahead and start with culture shock number 1 for us. And it's actually a really great, convenient shock for us. And it is going to be the water bottle. And you're probably asking, like, what's so different about the water bottles here? Well, it's this little guy. This will never come off. They just don't come off here in Spain. And I love it because I, for one, would always lose the tops for the water bottles. And we have 2 little girls that always lose the top bottle, the top of the bottles. And it's just, we're always searching for them. And so then you're just like, I'm forced to drink this or just throw it away. And here, this is really convenient. I don't know who thought of this, but it's genius. And I just love that it just stays on, and whenever you're done, you just put it back on and that's it. It's just the greatest thing, and I love that feature. US, you need to get with the times.
Yeah, no, it is pretty genius. And to be quite honest, when we first got here, I was like fighting with the water bottle. I'm like, why doesn't this top come off? And I couldn't get it to do this. So I'd be drinking my water bottle, like rubbing against my nose, and it was such a challenge. But I didn't know. Nobody told me that, hey, the bottle doesn't come off. The bottle cap does not come off.
Yeah.
It just lingers there, it hangs, and then boom, you're good to go. So it's actually pretty darn genius, right? And there isn't loose bottle caps everywhere,
right,
which is fantastic. I mean, it's just a convenient way to recycle. The cap stays on the bottle. So this was actually pretty amazing. But yeah, if you don't know,
yeah,
don't freak out if you can't.
Take it off.
Take it off, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Yeah, just pull it back enough. It'll do that, and then you can drink like a normal human being,
Yes, I do agree. We spent a lot of time trying to take these tops off, so we're here to help you guys not look like us.
Yeah, first couple of days we were doing this number. I was like scratching you, and it's a mess, but now you know. The more you know. A public service announcement there. And so the second topic on this second video as far as culture shocks go is, when you go to the grocery store, eggs and milk are not in the coolers. You find them, the milk is right in front of the cereals in the aisle, and room temperature, and that is because the milk here is pasteurized in a different way. It is pasteurized milk, just like we have back home in the United States, but here in Europe, they use something called ultra high temperature pasteurization. And all that means is they raise the temperature even higher than we do back home, and for a very low amount of time, for I think about 3 seconds. And what that does is it kills the bacteria in the milk for up to 6 months. And so it lasts 6 months. You can keep it on the shelf. You go, you get your milk, it's at the shelf, not in the coolers. And then when you get home, you can put it in the fridge. If we buy 2 containers of milk, we'll keep one, in the regular pantry. We'll put the other one in the fridge because I like cold milk. But yeah, that was a big culture shock, because back home, milk has the timestamp, and it's usually about 2 weeks, right? If you don't drink your milk within 2 weeks, you're getting rid of it, right? It's gone, it's done. And it was huge. It's almost taboo to not have milk in the coolers, right? You show up at the store, and if you saw a gallon of milk sitting outside of the cooler, well, you're definitely not buying it, right? Because your mind automatically goes to, well, yeah, it's no good anymore. And same thing with eggs. The eggs are just sitting out in the open, and you ask them, oh, can I have a dozen or a half dozen eggs? And they just put them in a little carton for you, and they give them to you. And so we asked one of our produce guys the other day.
Egg dealer.
Our egg dealer, yeah. Especially since eggs are a hot commodity back in the U.S. right now. He explained to us how in the U.S. when they process eggs, they clean the eggs, they wash them, they vigorously wash the outside of the egg, and it removes a cuticle that the egg naturally has. and that cuticle helps keep the salmonella out. Here they don't do that. Here you get eggs, and if you open, your dozen eggs to see that they're not cracked, you'll even see some chicken feathers on there, maybe even a little chicken poop on there. And it's absolutely normal because they haven't removed the protective cuticle that keeps them from building up salmonella and different bacteria that can potentially make you sick, which was another surprise for us because where do you normally find eggs back home? In the coolers next to the milk, right? They go hand in hand. And so that's why we put both of those together here in this topic.
And so I think for us too, whenever we first got here, we were searching up and down. We didn't know about the mercados at that point, so we were at a small grocery store, and I remember going up and down the aisles and finally asking somebody like, do you guys even sell eggs? Do you guys even sell milk? And they're like, it's right here. And so it was more of like a research project of trying to figure out why is the milk not in the refrigerator? And then the second thing was the eggs. Like, why are the eggs out? Look, we saw them, and you knew we were not from Europe because we were just staring at the eggs like, why are they out here? And is that a feather? Is that poop? Like, what is all these things? And so we were just so intrigued by it, and learning the process, it just makes sense and it's awesome. Culture shock number 3 is for me, and this is on behalf of all the mothers all over America, how much we depend on the dryer. There are no dryers here in Spain and what I hear Europe. So dryers are a luxury here, and a lot of the apartments will not have dryers in them. They will only have a washer machine. And back home, what was the drill for all of us is wash your clothes, put it in the dryer, and then put it in your laundry basket and leave it in there for 2 weeks and slowly pull out clothes as you need them, right? Or at least that was my deal. And so here it's a little bit different. We wash our clothes and we have to actually put them outside on a line to dry. And we've actually kind of liked that idea. I like that the clothes aren't wrinkled from the dryer, and so I kind of do like this hanging out the clothes thing. It does take time though. It does take a lot of time to take the stuff out of the dryer and then individually put the things out, or not the things, but the clothes on the line. But I think that was a big culture shock for me, not seeing a dryer and trying to understand, like, how are we going to live? What do we do with our lives? Because we're so dependent on dryers. So I think it was a really big shock for me.
All right, so now moving away from water and eggs and milk and electrodomestic appliances that you have at home. The next one for me is when we first got to Spain, I would ask my wife, why is everybody staring at us? I don't know if I was just being self-conscious, or I was like, man, you walk in public and people will make eye contact with you for about 5 seconds. And I mean, everybody, if you're walking, the opposite way of someone, and everybody does it. Everybody's just walking and they'll kind of like look at you, and they don't break their gaze until they're right past you. And something that goes along with that is here everybody's kind of more bunched together. It's a big city, and everybody's walking, everybody's kind of moving together. Mm-hmm. And so when you walk, it's pretty common to just kind of
just stare,
look at someone, and you don't nod. It's you can smile and nod if you like, and they return it every time I do it. I'll say buenos dias, or I'll nod. If it's a guy, I don't want to make any women feel uncomfortable, so I usually just smile. But yeah, they kind of stare at you, and it's coming from a culture like where we come from, where we're not used to it. Let's just say it's eye-opening, right?
Yeah, the stares are. He said 5 seconds. I feel like it's 30 seconds with them just staring at you, and you're just like kind of wanting to look away, like you're looking at me, or do I have something on my face? And then sometimes I'm always asking him, like, do I have something in my teeth, or is there something on my face? Why are people staring at me? Or sometimes, you're just like, oh, I must look good today, But it is a culture shock about the gaze. Numero 5. Culture shock for me is, and it's a funny one, because we always go to the ATM because when we go to the mercado or need small things, we like to use cash. And here, cash, the big bills, I should say, just remove them from the Spanish ATMs, please. Because if you have a 50 euro, don't expect to go and use it at a store because they will give you the look. And not the good Spanish stare that we just spoke about. We're talking about that look. You know, the one that's, why are you using this? Like, why are you giving me this $50 bill? And they'll either tell you they don't have change or they'll give you the look like, no, I'm not doing it. So then you have to pull out your credit card and just pay with that, you know? And it's just, you're like, I was trying to use my cash for this transaction and you just can't. And so it's just, you always have to carry the exact change around here. And there's always these pop-up markets too, so it's always good to have cash. But when you go to the ATM, excuse me, just gives you 50s. And you're like, where are the 20s? Where are the 10s, the 5s? Give me the small bills. And it's just like, it's almost like that's all they stock. There are occasional 20s that we get and we're like, wow, this just looks, we are parading around the streets of Spain like, we got a 20 because we got it. And it's just, it's hard to get small bills. So if you do come here, make sure you go to an ATM, and if you need to get change, you better go to a department store or something and get like a big ticketed item to get change so that we have for the rest of the time. Or find a little area where they can get you, change out your bills, because yeah, 50s should be obsolete here, and it's just, you might as well not be carrying cash here.
Yeah, and you can pay everywhere with the credit card. I mean, you really can. Your debit card, credit card, everybody has these little portable machines where you can just pay. But sometimes if I'm not spending more than 10 euro, you know, I like to use cash.
Yeah.
But yes, if you have anything above a 20, good luck finding someone to break it. I mean, honestly, people are just, and they're not rude, but they're just like, they'll tell you like, no, like I'm not gonna break that. I don't have change.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, like honestly, like she said, I don't know why the ATMs hand out 50s here. They should just get rid of them, hand out all 10s, 20s, 5s, whatever, right? So yeah, it's a big one. And the other thing I do notice is people carry change here, like coin change. You know, men have, you know, little coin purse or a European carry-all, if you will, as
Seinfeld insert.
Said, yeah. But yeah, and it's really common, and it's kind of cool because now I'm kind of getting into carrying change because I want to have the exact change, right? It's kind of like a little game, like, oh yeah, I got this, because a lot of things do cost very little. Like a coffee's 120, 130 at most places. So if you can pay with exact change, because there's euro coins, there's 2 euro coins, and so it's really cool to do it that way. And so, so we're slowly getting into that, right? Back home, what do you do with change? You put it in your ashtray in your car, or you have a jar that you put it in at home. You know, nobody uses change back home. At least we weren't very used to it. And so here they still use change, they still use cash. And
like he mentioned, if you want to go buy a coffee or $1.20, why use your credit card? They're having to pay credit card processing fees. Mm-hmm. And so you almost feel bad for the shop owner. You're like giving them your credit card for $1.20, you know? And so that's why it's important for us, and it may not be for everybody else, but for us to have the small bills.
All right, now number 6 on the list, and this is a big one, especially coming from the US, is tipping culture here in Spain. Tipping culture is not big, it's not required, and it's back home, tipping is as American as apple pie. It really is. We've been conditioned to, hey, you just have to tip, and it makes sense. A lot of servers, especially in the state of Texas where we come from, still earn the minimum $2.13 an hour, right, before tips. And so they do need these tips to survive, right, for subsistence. But here, waiters earn a living wage. And that's not to say that they don't work hard. They work extremely hard. You know, in most cases, you know, smaller restaurants are usually run by 2-3 people at the most. There isn't a huge wait staff like back home where, you know, every 5 minutes there's a waiter at your table asking you if you need anything. It's not like that here. You'll find yourself waiting a little more for service, but it's not bad service. There's just less staff. And so when we first got here, you know, we were used to tipping 20%, right? We'd go out, we'd have lunch with our daughters. It was $50. We were giving $10. And
these people thought, you would have thought that they were giving them $100. They were just like, what?
Yeah. The first time it was like, are you sure? You know, they were like asking us if we were sure. And I was like, yeah, of course, why not? But then some of our friends who are business owners in the service industry were like, hey man, you don't need to do that here. Like you don't need to be tipping that much, which to us 20% isn't even that much. It's just kind of the standard rate.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, that's an American thing. They're like, you can tip if someone's going above and beyond and you see that they're giving you their best effort, then feel free. Yes, you let them know that, you appreciate that and you give them a tip. But even then, it's not the 20%. I think they even told us like sometimes it could be considered like you're kind of showing off. Like, oh, I have money to blow. Here's, you're throwing money around. And they're like, you don't have to do that here. We still do tip, but obviously now it's in lower numbers. It's a little more on par with what people do here. But
the tipping culture in America is just, I feel, getting a little bit out of hand. And so this is really nice.
Agreed.
For number 7, for me is the noise pollution. And it may be different for people that live outside of Valencia and outside of the city. They probably don't hear as much noise as we do. But we are in the present moment in Valencia, so for me, it is the noise. It is to an extreme here. We first got here and every other shop had earpieces and hearing aids. And I was just wondering, I wonder why there's so many auditory stores.
Yeah.
It was baffling to me. And then the more and more that we live here, now I'm understanding. Every day there's construction and maybe we're going to need one of those hearing devices at our young, tender age. And so we are trying to adjust to it. But for me, it's just a big culture shock of just so much noise that is going on here. See?
No, Valencia, of course, is a big city. And so tall buildings, narrow streets, narrow alleyways. I mean, it becomes an acoustic echo chamber. And like she says, there's constant construction. So Valencia is growing at a rapid pace and the infrastructure needs to keep up. They're adding new metro lines. Mm-hmm. They're redoing the major train station here. And so it's constantly growing. And so there's jackhammers going off all the time. There's, hauling trailers going up and down the street. And then there's just the regular life. People stay out late here. And so there's revelers walking up and down the street at night and they're loud and you can hear them. We have French doors that lead out to the balcony and they do block out the noise, but not everything. And so you can hear that at night. Like you said, the neighbors, everybody that we've spoken to here in Valencia is like, oh yeah, we can hear our neighbors. Like, the walls are not paper thin. They're like cement walls, but there is no insulation like we have back home.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're going to hear your neighbors. You're going to hear people outside. Like she mentioned, you're going to hear the helicopters, the cars, the motorcycles. You hear everything here, and it's constant. It really is. And so we should have read the writing on the wall when we first got here and we saw all those auditory stores. We were like, I wonder why they're there.
Yeah.
Now we know why they're there. And so I do miss the sweet silence of home. I really do, because
and the birds chirping or something. And like I said, this is just Valencia life. We understand if you live outside of Valencia that of course you're going to have that quiet life. So I just want to remind people, like, it's just our situation right now.
Yeah, it is noisy, and it's not just us. Everybody we speak to is like, yeah, there's a lot of noise, and it's constant. And so, just a heads up, if you're coming, be ready.
Yeah.
All right, and so the last topic I'm going to touch on, and this is before my correction, the last topic, and this is one of the major ones.
Yeah.
It's the cost of healthcare here. The cost of healthcare. Spain does have a nationalized healthcare system, which is really good. I believe it's ranked 7th in the world. But when you go to the doctor, you do not pay for major surgeries. You go and everything is taken care of. Now, there are wait lists to get to the doctor, I was talking to one of our neighbors and he said, yeah, my knee was hurting. I went to the doctor. They told me I needed a surgery. And so they scheduled me 6 months out.
Right.
Which back home, you won't wait 6 months, but you're going to pay through the nose, right? And so that's one of the major differences, the cost here. Now that we've been here this long and we plan on staying here for the foreseeable future, we've already started paying into the system. So we could use the public healthcare system. But we still chose to maintain and pay for our private insurance. Right. So if you have private insurance, and when you first move here from abroad, you're actually required to purchase private insurance. It's required because you're not a citizen, and they require you to pay for the highest level of private insurance where you have zero copays. Back home last year, I was working for a major corporation, in a dental corporation, and we paid $1,000 a month for our healthcare for the whole family. $1,000 a month. We never used it outside of going for our regular routine checkups. Luckily, we're a healthy family. We keep ourselves healthy. We eat well. We exercise, and we do the same with our daughters and our son. But we paid $1,000 a month just to have health insurance,
Yeah.
just to have it. Here. And of course, there were still copays, right? If we went to the doctor, you still have your little copays here.
$25,
Yes,
$35, you know.
And God forbid you need actual care. Like I remember when we had Nova, our latest one, 4 years ago, we had the same insurance and they paid for a good amount of the delivery and everything, but we still paid thousands of dollars out of pocket, and we had a good health insurance.
Yeah.
And so here for private insurance with zero copays, like absolutely nothing. I've been to the doctor and I've been to the dentist here with our insurance. I paid nothing. $2,400 for the year. Sorry, not dollars, euros. So $2,400 for the year, for the whole family, covered, full health care, zero copays.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. It's a quarter of what we were paying, less than a quarter. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. It just makes me realize, you know, being several degrees separated from the U.S., it makes you realize how healthcare in the U.S., unfortunately, we do have a good healthcare providers. We have good providers, and you know, if you're sick, you get good healthcare. But the healthcare system, the insurance system, only works if you're healthy.
Yeah.
If you're not healthy, you can have a great insurance, and God forbid you end up in a terrible accident or you get some sort of systemic disease. It can lead you to financial ruin.
Right.
And everybody knows someone who's had, you know, some medical emergency and they end up going to the doctor and it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars with their insurance, which is ridiculous. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that that's still going on and that it's normalized. Because when I was there a year ago, I thought it was the most normal thing. Like, hey, we need insurance, right? We need insurance. We had our health savings account, and you know, you try to be smart with your money so you pay less taxes on it because you know you're going to need healthcare.
Yeah.
Here, you pay very little for great healthcare, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, it's one of the biggest shocks, I'd say.
It was just like a shock, right? We took the girls to the dentist for the first time, and we were waiting for them to say, okay, it's going to be $35 because we were just used to paying a copay, and we're like, do we need to pay anything? They're like, no. See you later. Like we're like, it's just so weird for us. So it's a really great thing though, like just walking in and like you already know that everything is covered.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and the last one on our list, it's not a culture shock, it's more of a correction from our previous video on culture shocks. And that is, one of the things that I mentioned on that culture shock video was breakfast beer, right? I talked about how people drink here in the morning for breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, I got a lot of comments. From the Spanish people here. And I really am appreciative. Thank you to mi gente española for correcting me on this. Because back home we have 3 square meals a day.
Yeah.
You know, anything before noon is still breakfast, right? And so here, there's actually 5 meals a day. I mean, honestly, the Spanish cracked the code. They do it right here. There's breakfast, which is usually very light breakfast, el desayuno. There's what we would call brunch. Here they call almuerzo. It's, 10, 9, 10. There's the almuerzo, your second meal.
Yeah.
Then there's the comida, your lunch. Then there's the, between lunch and dinner, I don't know what you want to call it, dinner or supper, which is the merienda. And then there's the dinner, la cena, right? So that almuerzo slot, which falls between 9 and 10, is when I'd see people drinking with a meal. To me, that was breakfast. If it's 9 or 10, I thought it was breakfast. That's usually when I have my first meal, about 9 or 10. And so in the comment section, a lot of people were like, that's a lie. We don't drink beer or wine for breakfast. It's almuerzo, right? It's almuerzo. And so, correction, caveat, star that one. Yes, it's almuerzo. I apologize to all my Spanish people watching, but But thank you for the corrections because I really do appreciate it. The best way to learn when you're here is by, doing and making mistakes and then people correcting you. And so that's how you learn.
Yeah.
So it's not breakfast beer. It's brunch beer. Brunch beer. But back home, we only have brunch on Sundays, right? So here it's brunch every day. Every day is brunch. And so brunch beer, almuerzo vino. That's how they do it here. And I thank everybody for the comments. That was really cool. I appreciate that. Well, thank you guys for watching. And you can watch any of our other videos here, there, everywhere. Watch the rest of our videos because we'll be posting content every week. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. And if there's any topics that you guys want us to talk about, feel free to let us know. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Thank you guys once again for watching.